I'm here with Candyce Norris Jenkins. Candyce, you're all going to remember that name, Candyce Norris Jenkins. And she is a major force in what is going on in relationship to our own history about diabetes. And she got a conversation to give us here at the African American Diabetes Association about diabetes, her own personal walk, her own personal history. And by the way, it's part of Black history. So we wanted to bring on Candyce Norris Jenkins, Diabetic Mom Coach. Welcome, Candyce.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you so much for such a great introduction and just for having me today. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so very much. And let's talk for a moment about yourself and your journey, because it's an interesting journey that when we first met, I was amazed with the challenges that you faced with diabetes and your own personal walk, your own personal journey. So, could you share that journey with the folks that are listening today?
Yes, absolutely. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes almost 30 years ago. My initial diagnosis, like most people, it went a while before I was actually diagnosed. So I became really ill, had flu-like symptoms. My mom was saying, because I was a teenager at the time, and my mom was saying, "Oh, you're just playing sick to stay home from school. It's nothing really wrong with you." And so she made me go to school. After a while, she started to notice how I was losing weight. My face had become very drawn in. And she said, you seem like you are really sick. And she took me to the doctor, and the doctor just said, "Oh, it's probably the flu. Don't worry about it." But not realizing, after I became very ill, she took me to the hospital because I was so ill. My blood sugar was 2,500.
Oh,
And as you know, Leon, like the normal blood sugar range is between 70 and 150. And so after receiving a 2,500 blood sugar number, I was admitted to the ICU and then found out that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so through this, many people, of course, of African American descent, we aren't given the proper education and resources. And like myself, fell into that category. And I found myself being hit with some other complications. And so throughout my teenage years, my method of rebelling against my parents was, well, I'm not going to take my insulin. I'm not going to check my blood sugar. And so fast forward, I was on dialysis by the time that I was 25. Received my first kidney transplant at 27, and life was great for me. My brother was happily my donor. That kidney lasted for almost 10 years before finding out that it had failed because the body was recognizing that this is a foreign object. And so going back on dialysis, having to undergo that whole process again, I found myself back on dialysis. But luckily, this time, fast forward 2 years, I received my second kidney transplant. And to our surprise, 6 months after that, my husband and I found out that we were expecting. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, which is how I kind of got in the situation by ignoring my health and ignoring the diabetes. And once I realized, like, hey, this isn't going away, it was really, really, my priority to make sure that I'm caring for myself. So now I'm finding out that I'm expecting, my husband and I'm in the predicament of how do I take care of myself over here, but also this brand new baby that I have over here. She doesn't know anything about diabetes. And so, Leon, I created what I call now my Thrive system. And I'll tell you what that means. So the T in Thrive means transforming diabetic moms to create. H, healthy habits. By R, reshaping a positive perspective around your diagnosis. I, incorporating your faith. V, finding your value beyond motherhood and diabetes. And then E, establishing systems and routines to keep you healthy and happy. And I can talk more into that a little later, but I know you kind of wanted me to just tell who I am and kind of my personal journey. So that's really it in a nutshell. I'm still living with type 1. That hasn't gone away. Still maintaining my kidney health. That too is something that I have to live with on a daily basis, just like many of our friends out there. And so now, Leon, my daily kind of process is really just to maintaining my health and also teaching other moms and other women how to make themselves a priority. I was telling Leon when we met, if mama crumbles, then everybody crumbles. As women, we are kind of tasked with maintaining the household and caring for everyone and nurturing for everyone in the household. And so knowing that we have such an audacious job to do, it's really our primary job to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves.
Well said, and I salute you in what you do, and the fact that you in your challenge, like the challenge of diabetes, it's like something that we lived with and we live with every moment of the day. It's a
Yes,
challenge.
it
And
is.
your particular challenge is unique because you, my friend, are a woman that sees bigger picture, the
Mm-hmm.
bigger picture. You looked at diabetes right in the eye and you fought it and built a system to actually make sure that you respond to your own individual challenge, but as well respond to a bigger challenge. And that challenge is the challenge that women face with diabetes. Talk about that particular challenge a little bit more about women with diabetes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, actually women are diagnosed at a faster rate than men are. So it's proven and especially in the United States, that there are actually more women living with diabetes than men. Couple that when you talk about Black women, obviously our diagnosis rates are higher than any other um, demographic group in our country. And so there are a lot of Black women who may have been diagnosed without support or resources. And of course, there's still a lot of Black women and women in general who may have been misdiagnosed. So there are a lot of people who may have been diagnosed as type 2 who are actually type 1. I know one of your board members kind of had that same situation. It happens all the time. And being caregivers, being nurturers, being kind of tasked with caring for the family, it really puts women at a different place, because a lot of times, women, I talk to women all the time, Leon, and it's really kind of like that mindset shift of, well, maybe I'll take care of my diabetes, after my kids eat and after my kids go to bed, and then after we take them to the game on Sunday, and then after, it's kind of always after.
Mhm.
But I have a very unique perspective of, I know that we're taught to take care of everyone else first, but possibly shifting your mindset about prioritizing your own health first, even with
Mhm.
kids or
Mhm.
grandkids or other family members that may need you. I have a very, my perspective is to change that around.
Mhm.
And I get that perspective. You know how you ride on an airplane, Leon, and they tell you, in the event of an emergency, what do they tell you to put on first?
That's right. You're a mass first
Their
to
mask
be able
first,
to
right?
help others, particularly your children. That's
There
right.
you go. There
Yeah.
you go. And that's kind of my philosophy. So I really urge women, especially, put your own oxygen mask on first.
Mhm.
And related to diabetes, that means, make sure first that you have healthy options to eat. Make sure that you're taking your medication first. Make
Mhm.
sure that when you do grocery shop, that you're finding things that you can eat that would be healthy for you. Make sure that you're exercising first before you start the day and kind of get busy. So it's really that mindset about putting ourselves first. and then once we have our oxygen mask on, then hey, now we're free to care for ourselves, for our family, and for the community as well.
Mhm. Very good. Now, what should women do differently beyond looking out for themselves? When I say beyond, is there something different that they should be doing if they have diabetes? The mask that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, breathing in air. We don't, particularly African American women and men, but African American women seem
Mm-hmm.
not to get the level of exercise that
Yeah.
we need to get. Do you have any particular guidance you give to women with exercise and making sure that we're physically fit?
Yeah, yeah. And that is so deeply rooted, Leon. That's such a great question. And part of the work that I do with women
Hmm.
with diabetes is that, um, we think that it's hard, or that it has to be, or a lot of women choose not to exercise because they feel like they have to go to a gym, or it takes too much time. And I'm all about time management and creating like a system that works for you. So say, for an example, a lot of women and moms in particular, they have to go to the grocery store, right? Maybe once a week, maybe twice a week or whatever. So I say, well, use your grocery store run to not
Hmm.
only, number one, get the nutritious food that you need. Why don't you take a couple laps around the grocery store and get some extra steps in?
Hmm.
Especially during this time of the year where it's very cold in a lot of places, and women don't want to go outside. We don't want to mess up our hair. We don't want to get in the pool. It's all these different reasons
Hmm.
why we don't want to exercise. So I say, well, incorporate the exercise into what you're already doing. And
Hmm.
I've found that providing that support, that I see you because I am you. I don't want to mess up my hair either, Leon. I don't want
Right.
to sweat. And so just meeting women where they are to say, hey, I understand you. Start small, and then you can build up a lifestyle over time. So I say, well, if you've got to go to the grocery store, get a couple laps in around the store. Don't just go around once. Make it, do three or
That's
four
right.
laps in the grocery
Very
store.
good.
You'll get some extra steps in. Or do you take your kids to the mall? Do you shop on the weekends? Hang out in the mall and do a couple, walk the entire mall. And I found that even those little small 30 minutes of walking a day can really make a difference in someone that has diabetes. It's also been scientifically proven that just 30 minutes of brisk walking a day can really have a lot of great effects on our heart health, which, diabetics are more at risk for heart disease. And so really just moving, but also being able to identify and supporting women where they are, to not beat them up or make them feel guilty, because, a lot of times we don't have the same access to different resources as maybe other demographic groups. And so, I just try to be kind and hold space for women who are just starting out exercising. And a lot of them find that after a while of doing it, they actually love it. And, it can be a really big stress reliever. So
Very good.
hopefully
That
yeah.
that's amazing. What you're giving to us is amazing in so many ways. I'm talking with Candyce Norris Jenkins. Actually, she's Diabetic Mom Coach. She does great work in community. We're talking to her on Black History Month 2025 and talking about diabetes and its impact on the African American community. One of the things I did want to comment on was we live in deserts in so
Mm,
many ways. The African American community, and particularly women, Black women, who are the nurturers, the natural nurturers of our
mhm,
community. They go out, you all go out and
mhm,
actually go into food deserts. You all go into pharmacy deserts. What do
mm,
we do as African Americans, and what do you do as an African American woman and other African American women when we talk
mhm.
about these food deserts and pharmacy deserts? what should we be doing differently? And what should America be doing differently in relationship to those food deserts and those pharmacy deserts? Thoughts?
Yeah. That's a really great question. And, it really kind of brings me back to this organization, the work that you and your staff are doing. And so, the old adage that says, if you want to go, what is it? If you want to go, um, if you want to go far, go alone. And you please correct me if I'm wrong.
Hmm.
But the point I'm trying to make is like, if you want to do something alone, you won't get very far.
Hmm.
I think, but the community support, the idea of us putting our resources together, of us actually building on community support, that's what's going to get us farther. You
Hmm.
understand? And so, I have to stop really and applaud the work that you and your team are doing to provide resources, to provide support and education for the African American community, especially those living with diabetes. There are so many food deserts around the country. I'm sure if any of us would, get in our car and drive maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes down the road, we run right into one.
Hmm.
And so I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, where
Hmm.
there are tons of food deserts. I previously worked with Johns Hopkins organization, Johns Hopkins Hospital, to address some of the food deserts. And as someone living with diabetes, it's only compounding on the problem of someone who has diabetes and they don't have fresh options to choose from. So they may go into a convenience store and buy chips and candy instead of actually buying like fresh fruit and vegetables.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, my motto is always kind of in let's do it together. And I think that truly, and especially since these days we're seeing a lot of grant funding being cut, we're seeing a lot of federal programs being cut. I really think that it's our job to kind of hold hands and figure out just how they used to do it back in the day. Okay, Leon, if you've got some flour, then I've got some grain, and that's how we're going to make our bread. And really trying to tap into to others in the community to say, okay, well, what do you have to offer? And what do
Hmm.
you have to
Hmm.
offer?
Hmm.
And with that, you kind of start to find out, well, Mr. Jones down the street, he's got some soil
Hmm.
in his backyard, and we can plant some things there
Hmm.
and offer that to the community or offer it at a discounted price. And, I think that it's really about the community working together to address those within our own community. Um, and hopefully, I think that is kind of how I got into the work that I'm doing now, because I do consider that to be me putting my piece of it into the puzzle. I'll say, okay, here's what I've got. Here's what I've lived. Here are my experiences. Let's use this to now get further. And then you, Leon, give your experiences and the resources that you have to provide, and we can go a little further. And so I do, I definitely understand the food deserts and the pharmacy deserts. And I really think that we could really make a difference just by working together as community folks. And even if somebody only has one thing to offer, that's okay. Really kind of having that community mindset where we look out for each other, we support each other, and not wait for a solution because it may never come. But if we put our little 2 cents in and somebody else puts their three, and maybe somebody has $1 over here, I really think that community kind of effort is really what's going to take us to the next level.
Well, you just answered the question right there. You did, you really did. In so many ways, you answered the question. We got
Yeah.
food deserts, we got pharmacy deserts, but we
Hmm.
have to rely on ourselves and our community. It goes back to our own history.
Yes, it
Our
does.
own history before segregation was outlawed, we were in a segregated environment. Seems
Yeah.
like that's what they're trying to build again today. But
Yeah.
we were in a
Mhm.
segregated environment and we took care of ourselves. And
Yes.
it
Yeah.
seems as though there are people, without talking politics too much, there are
Mhm.
people that want us to go back to that same mindset. And you know something, in some ways, I don't mind. Actually,
Mhm.
that's a good thing to build our own capacity to essentially respect ourselves, our bodies, our community. It's all about us.
Mhm.
That's why I love what you do and the work
Mhm.
you're doing in community, doing
Yeah.
the good work. Talk more about your platform, your
Yeah.
diabetic mom platform, how
Yeah.
you visioned it, how you developed it, and what you're doing, and what impact you're having. And in many ways,
Mhm.
a clarion call to help others. How are you going to help others as well? We're
Yeah, yeah. So, thanks for that. And one thing that I will say before I kind of talk about my own platform is
Mhm,
that I found that Black History Month has been a great time and a great opportunity to learn about what other people are doing within our community. And so, because it's really being highlighted, whether you see it on social media or word of mouth, I'm really enjoying to learn all the gifts and the skills and Black-owned businesses that are out there to support the Black community. So that's been wonderful. And to add my Black-owned business in there. So as you mentioned, I'm the Diabetic Mom Coach. And this mission or vision for me came about literally because I'm my own, client, if you will, and I didn't see the services that I was looking for as a mother, as someone living with diabetes, as a Black woman. I didn't see that out there. And so I decided to create it. And, when I had my daughter, obviously it was a very kind of stressful time for me because I'm managing my diabetes. I was considered what you would call a geriatric pregnancy. So I
mhm,
had my daughter a little later in life and kind of just dealing with that. And when I looked out there for support, who's someone who could really understand me or someone who had been where I'd been, I really couldn't find anyone.
mhm,
And so I had to create it on my own. Like you said, it's about us kind of creating our own thing. And so
mhm,
that's what I did. And now, so I offer, it's kind of three pillars that I like to focus on:
mhm,
support, education, and mentorship. And so I offer all three of those to someone who, like me, whether you are already a mom or a grandmom, you're living with diabetes, and you understand the clinical side of it, meaning that you understand about taking your medication and those things, but maybe you need support on the other hand, which is
mhm,
how to cope with it. I think about someone who's newly diagnosed. Sometimes they just give you a pamphlet and say, okay, go figure it out. Well, my approach is a lot more supportive than that. So I offer a support group kind of a project where there are other women who are going through the same things that we're all going through, where we can talk about it. You can support, you can glean from someone else that's on the same journey as you. I also offer a mentorship program where you can work directly with me to kind of walk you through this thing, and also education. So I offer a master class where someone could sign up and to take a 4-hour training and learn, how to thrive, how to make a transformation, how to live healthy, all those things I mentioned in my Thrive method, to learn how to do that for yourself. And just offering this education about stress management with diabetes, which is huge, how to prioritize your own health, how to take time to incorporate your faith into your health routine. So there are a lot of different things that I offer to women who have all kind of told me, okay, these are the things that we're looking for,
mhm.
and then I've been able to deliver those. So I'm very proud about the work that I'm doing. I'm very excited about it. I do feel that I've been called, to fill that space where I once looked and there was nothing there. And so
Wow.
it's very rewarding for me to be able to do that.
Powerful, powerful stuff right there. Share with the audience, the folks that are listening in today, tonight, or whenever they're listening in, your website and your contact information or email address.
Yeah, so the best way to reach me is by email. My email is the diabetic mom coach at gmail.com. So spell that out, the diabetic mom coach at gmail.com. And you can also visit my website at www.thediabeticmomcoach.com. It tells you about all the services that I mentioned. If there's something that you don't see that you're interested in, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to help you on your journey.
Wow, the powerful conversation that we have had today talks about the power of Black women, talks about the importance of taking care of your health,
Yes.
particularly if you're diabetic. And diabetic mom is doing her thing, actually empowering Black women, all women, to address their diabetes. During this Black History Month, we only have a couple more minutes. Is there any closing remarks you would like to make to people that are listening today?
Yes, I would definitely, if I would make a remark, I think just as we've kind of talked about over the course of our conversation, Leon, is to really to reach out. So many people suffer in silence, especially Black people, and there are resources available to you. So do not suffer in silence. There's amazing organizations such as the African American Diabetes Association, with people who know exactly what you're going through. They're equipped to handle whatever it is. If you don't see something, just ask. And I'm sure that they'll be able to help you. So don't suffer in silence. Reach out. There's support in numbers. There's power in numbers. Like I mentioned before, the more of us that can kind of hold hands and form a bigger circle to support one another, the better. So, and I also just want to thank you, Leon, for the opportunity. It's been so great to connect with you and your staff. And I'm very excited to be able to support the women that come through and are looking for support and education and resources.
Well, thank you so very much, Candyce Norris Jenkins. I'm going to say it one more time. Norris Jenkins, you're going to hear that voice. You're going to hear this conversation for a long time to come.
Yeah.
Diabetic Mom Coach. And she shared the information, but I'm sharing the information right now. And you will be able to get in touch with Diabetic Mom Coach Candyce Norris Jenkins. We appreciate you and
Yes.
thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy Black History Month.